Well, since I'm running low on topics, I'm going to ask questions because those always seem to generate some nice interaction and it gives me something to talk about. So here we go. Question 1. When did you get into the most trouble as a teenager? Well, as a teenager, I really didn't get in trouble. I got in trouble a lot when I was a kid when my parents were married. Um, it seemed like we got in trouble for everything. But when my parents divorced, you know, all sorts of crap happened. And I really, first of all, I didn't do anything to get myself in trouble. And even if I had, I don't think that, my mom was so busy sort of in her own situation that I probably could have run around setting fires in the neighborhood and she wouldn't have noticed. So there is that. But one time I almost got in trouble, but I didn't because I had never done that before. I think under other circumstances, if I were my sister, I probably would have been grounded for a month. But some friends of mine asked me to go to the mall with them. And I thought, well, why not? Not that I was like this big person to go out on the weekends, which I think is another reason why I didn't get in trouble, because I never really went out much. But I said, yeah, sure, that'd be great. And it was my friend, her best friend, which the three of us we had several classes together, so I knew her as well, but they were best friends. And then the first friend's boyfriend. So there was four of us in the car. And the boyfriend was a year ahead of us in school. He drove. And we went to the mall, and the friend and the boyfriend went off kind of doing their own thing for a bit. And so my friend and I were walking around the mall together, just chit-chatting, and yeah, I learned a lot that night. We were I'll never forget, and I think about this every time I go by this fountain. One of two things I think about when I go to this fountain at North Park Mall. The other being Farrah Fawcett. They filmed a movie in the mall, and she was in one scene dancing in the water in the fountain because she was crazy. So I think about that every time I go. And I also think about my friend. I guess we were waiting on the other two, and we were talking, and she said, so how many guys have you slept with? I think we were in 10th grade. And that just hadn't even really entered my realm of thinking at that point. I know. I was, a late bloomer. I'm like, 0? Hello? It just didn't even, I don't know. I was so taken aback by that. I was like, oh, wow. Well, how many, I don't think I even asked her. I think I was too stunned to even ask. And she volunteered 11. I'm like, 11? We're 16 years old. Good Lord. Yeah, it was shocking. And I don't know. It's just one of those things you think about when, something reminds you of that. But that's not what almost got me in trouble. Was we left the mall, and then they decided to drive around White Rock Lake, which is this big lake in town, and it's it's just the thing to do. You drive around the lake. People park and make out and stuff or whatever, and so I said, I'm at this point I'm sort of a prisoner in the car. So what are you gonna say? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Well, we're driving, and the guy driving whips out a joint, and starts smoking the joint in the car, and I'm in the back seat going, oh my God. And I had never been that close to marijuana before in my life. I'd smelled it at concerts and stuff, but I'd never actually been in, that close proximity. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm such a nerd. I'm like holding my breath. I'm like, I don't want to breathe it in, And I'm in the back seat just trying not to breathe. And so we stop at the lake and get out, and then the guy and the girl, boyfriend, girlfriend, they go off for some point, and my other friend, we're just sort of, and they were all smoking in the car. I was not. So I'm just like, oh my God, I'm gonna get back in the car. I was all freaked out about, them driving or him driving, and he was wasted, and I'm just panicked, and I'm thinking, I don't want to die tonight, and Yeah, so of course we were at the lake longer than I told my parents I would be at the mall. And I got home and my parents were like waiting at the door for me. And even then I think it was like 10:30, quarter to 11. It wasn't late, but the mall closed at 9. So, you know, they were worried probably more than anything. But I had worn, it was a yellow like acrylic sweater. I know, stylish, right? It was very 80s. And the problem with wearing this sweater is that all the smells just stuck to it. So I smelled like a joint. And I was mortified because I stunk so bad and I didn't smoke anything. And so, I go to the door and, my parents are like, well, where have you been? And da da da. And they sat me down and they were saying, because you've never done this before, we're not going to ground you and, just don't do it again and, yada, yada, yada. But that was my first offense. So, for some reason I got off easy. But the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, they're going to smell the weed. I'm going to get in trouble. I didn't smoke it, but they're going to smell it. And it just didn't matter. And so I just tried to stay away as far as away as I could from them. So they wouldn't smell it, but they didn't say anything if they did, which I'm sure if had they smelled it, they would have said something. So I dodged a bullet there. Even though I didn't smoke anything, I thought for sure I would be strung up by my toes if they had, sensed anything. But that was my near in trouble teenage thing. And again, I was so boring as a kid, as a teenager. I never got in trouble. It was all good. A long-winded story. Fucking edit that down. What age were you in your best shape? I would say probably 30. I was working out a lot, like 5 days a week, and I just eating really well. I was just good shape. 30. It was still, gravity was still my friend, and it was just, yeah. If I could pick one age to go back and live that forever, it would be 30 and a good shape that I was in. So, yes. This is not a question for me, but for you guys, because some people, you might. What's under your bed? I don't have anything under my bed. I don't like anything under my bed. And that's probably because growing up, we weren't allowed to have anything under the bed. When we were kids, we would try to clean our room up by shoving all the crap underneath there. And of course, that was the first place my mom looked. So, it was never a good hiding place. But so, even today, I don't have anything under my bed. Yeah, just 3 questions because I gotta go. If you want to answer them, great. If not, that's fine too. Talk to you later. Bye.